Good afternoon, everybody. And now at noon, more big decisions coming down from the Supreme Court. They side today with a high school football coach disciplined for praying after games. Plus, a decision that changed history and sparked protests nationwide. We've got the latest reaction to the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. Athletes, coaches, and officials dealing with the high temperatures this summer. We're going to hear from one umpire about how he beats the heat, and his advice could help you. And it's travelers' worst flightmare, having your flight delayed or canceled. We're sharing a few ways to avoid the headache plaguing a lot of people right now. But no worries about weather delays for flyers today. Meteorologist Scott Covert is here bringing us welcome news on this Monday afternoon. Feeling some relief out there. What a nice afternoon we've got shaping up. Nice indeed. It has been so pleasant outside, and that's going to continue to be the trend over the next couple of days. Here's what's happened. It was hot last week. That's no surprise to anyone that stepped foot outside. We had a cold front that slid through late yesterday afternoon into the early morning hours of today, and behind that front, much less humid air and some cooler temperatures. Here's what your satellite and radar shows right now. Clouds have been blanketing most of the natural state this morning, but we're starting to see a few breaks in those clouds, a little bit of sunshine, and that's starting to warm us up. Your current temperature in Little Rock sitting at 80 degrees. You can see that on the bottom right side of your screen. It's not going to be as hot today. We only climbed to 85 with that less humid air in place. It feels pretty pleasant. With that said, there is a decent breeze out there. Northeast winds 10 to 15 miles per hour with occasional gusts as high as 20. And it's the direction of those winds that's drawing in the less humid air from the upper Midwest. Statewide, this is where your highs are going to end up. 84 in Clinton, 85 in Hot Springs, Arkadelphia, and Monticello under a partly cloudy sky. Nice weather continues over the next couple of days, but unfortunately it does come to an end by the second half of this week. Temperatures rebounding into the 90s, the humidity that creeps back up, and rain chances are back in your forecast. We'll take a look at the timing of all that coming up in your extended forecast. The ramifications from the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe versus Wade is still being felt as legislatures around the country now move to either restrict or protect access to abortions. Natalie Brand has details from outside the Supreme Court building.
D.C. police are on standby for more protests this week after Friday's decision to overturn Roe versus Wade ignited demonstrations nationwide. In Jackson, Mississippi, the city at the center of the Supreme Court case that's changed history, the abortion clinic known as the Pink House says it will provide services as long as the law allows.
We've lived so long with this privilege of being able to make this choice, and we're not ready to give it up yet.
We've always been a pro-life state, but now we get to actually live it out.
Friday's 5-4 decision by the conservative court returns the issue of abortion to individual states.
8 states had laws that banned abortion as soon as the decision was handed down, and more states could soon follow within the next few months.
The people of Oklahoma have decided through their elected leaders, and the governor signed legislation making abortion illegal in the state of Oklahoma from the moment of conception.
Highlighting what will become a patchwork of state laws, 16 Democratic states and Washington, D.C. have laws that protect abortion rights. In Michigan, Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer is at odds with her Republican-controlled legislature.
With the current legislature that I have, there is no common ground, which is the sad thing. They've already introduced legislation to criminalize and throw nurses and doctors in jail.
According to a new CBS News poll, nearly 60% of Americans surveyed disapprove of the Supreme Court's decision, and 2/3 of women disapprove. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the Supreme Court.
That CBS poll also shows a majority of Americans surveyed say they think it's likely the court will take steps to limit same-sex marriage or access to birth control. Now, nearly all abortions are now illegal in Arkansas. A trigger law signed by Governor Asa Hutchinson in 2019 kicked in when Attorney General Leslie Rutledge certified the decision just hours after Roe v. Wade's overturning came down Friday. The law doesn't allow the woman to be charged if an abortion is performed, but the doctor could face a felony punishable with $100,000 fines or a minimum of 10 years in prison. On NBC's Meet the Press, the governor said doctors should not be investigated or harassed.
Doctors have always made life and health and death decisions. That's what they're trained to do. They have to make those medical judgments. and it's not the state's judgment to reconfigure those or to rethink those. They make those judgments, and the decision that has to be made is whether there's an abortion, and then you go after the provider as a criminal penalty, not the woman. That's a very important thing.
Meanwhile, Governor Hutchinson says he's told the Department of Health that he wants a plan to expand resources for women with unwanted pregnancies. And with the decision and these trigger laws going into effect around here and around all this region, people have a lot of questions. So that's where our Verify team comes in. This afternoon, Evan Kozloff is tackling a question you probably saw pop up over the weekend.
Let's verify. If you live in a state that bans abortion, could you order these pills from another state where it's still legal? To find out, we turn to our sources from the George Washington University Law School, the Georgetown Law Center, and the Kaiser Family Foundation. And according to the KFF, the most common way to get a medication abortion is through a two-drug regimen. Mifepristone, also known as RU-486, followed by misoprostol. This regimen is recommended for use at 10 weeks of pregnancy or less. And as of now, you can get prescribed these pills through a telehealth appointment in most states. So what does a post-Roe world mean for these abortion pills?
The law of the state where the patient is during the telehealth visit is what would determine what is legal or not legal.
But our experts say that enforcement is the big question. For example, if you live in West Virginia and medication abortions are banned, but a Maryland doctor prescribes the pills via telehealth, it's unclear what West Virginia could actually do about it.
How they would enforce that to the doctor in Maryland is really the question. How would they be able to track that and really enforce that?
And our experts say that enforcement would be even more difficult if a patient orders these pills from a company in another country.
Ultimately, if the state can't reach people outside the state, they may just decide to kind of criminalize women themselves.
So we can verify that no, if you live in a state that bans abortion, you cannot legally order pills from another state where it's allowed. But how this would be enforced remains a very big question. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozloff.
Of course, this is a developing story we'll be following in the coming days. Going to be answering more questions and providing context to the claims that you'll be hearing as we go through this week. Be sure to stay with THV11 at THV11.com for the very latest. We've got other Supreme Court news. The justices have weighed in on a case that affects religious liberty in the country. In a 6-3 ruling, the court sided with a former football coach who sued his Washington State school district, saying it violated his constitutional rights when it told him to stop praying with students after games. This latest ruling from the conservative majority on the high court moved the needle further toward expanding individual and corporate religious rights and narrowing the separation between church and state. With more than 1 million Americans now lost to COVID-19, ripple effects of grief are spreading through the nation. As the toll rises, so do the number of bereaved family members, pain that could linger for generations. Elise Preston speaks with a New Yorker grappling with devastating loss both at home and at work.
For Eileen Jimenez, the past 2 years have brought heartbreak after heartbreak.
They were like one after the other. You know what I mean? Like you don't even have a break to kind of grieve one before you're grieving the next.
COVID-19 took 2 of her uncles and 4 of her close friends.
I lost a very good college friend that I've known for many years, and I just couldn't believe it, right? She just had a baby like 2 years ago.
The pandemic also left gaping holes in her work at Catholic Guardian Services, where she helps find permanent homes for children in foster care. 8 of the foster mothers she works with died of COVID, leaving behind the children in their care.
My heart broke for them, and particularly one that was being adopted, and that was completely disrupted.
More than 1 million Americans have now died of COVID-19. Research at Penn State University shows for each of those deaths, at least 9 family members are left behind as survivors.
Our results would imply that with over 1 million individuals who died of COVID-19, that over 9 million people had lost a parent, sibling, spouse, child, or grandparent in the U.S.
Ashton Verdery helped lead the study.
I think that it's going to be 50 or 60 years before a large proportion of the population doesn't remember that their grandparent passed away in this acute mortality shock that influenced the country.
Ripples of grief that will change American families long after the pandemic loosens its grip. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
So you want to take a trip, but you're worried your flight could be canceled. You are not alone. After the break, we're sharing a few tips and tricks to avoid the ultimate flightmare. Scott?
It is just a downright comfortable day all across the natural state. You're looking live over our view 11. The clouds are breaking. The sun is shining. How long can you expect this comfortable weather to hang around? Well, not long. I'll let you know when the heat returns coming up.